Welcome everyone to the special session of council for the town of Greater Napanee for the 20th day of February 2024. Just before we call the meeting to order, I just want to remind everyone that this morning's meeting is going to be live streamed and put onto our YouTube channel for the folks at home so they can watch it live this morning or anytime after that if they want. So having said that, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll look for a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, items for discussion. First up on the agenda this morning is the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board report. And who's speaking to that? Oh, I see Annie's coming up. So whenever you get settled in there, Annie, the floor is yours.
Hold the button. Sorry. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, we've got the new speakers up there, so you have to actually hold it and when you're talking. So, and then when you're done talking, you release it. So, we've got the report in front of us. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Annie with respect to the staff report with regards to the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board report? I'm sure we'll have a few. So, go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Just a comment on this report and what the Bay of Quinte, what I feel the Bay of Quinte's been doing for us. As we know, marketing is a hard thing and it's very hard to measure. I think that by continuing our journey with Bay of Quinte, we'll do our area well. And it's always great to have strength in numbers. But we have to also remember too that we just can't simply sign a check, send it off to them and hope that tourism is going to come. We still need to do things and we still need to have events and plan events so that they can put it on their calendar and get us into our books and stuff like that. So the small amount of money that they're asking for, I do believe is very well spent, but we do have more work to do as well to get events here as well. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Pennell. Is there any other Deputy Mayor Gower?
And I'm still not keen on signing a four-year deal so it locks the next council into it. Every time I go to search anything, I don't find anything in regards to Napanee. Like if you just go onto Google and search Greater Napanee, because if you're from out of town, you wouldn't know what Bay of Quinte marketing is. You wouldn't be able to look that up. You're just going to look, if you're driving through Eastern Ontario, you're going to pull up, oh, we're going through Greater Napanee, what's there? And there's not a lot. I found two things from November till January on the Bay of Quinte marketing. So I'm not really 100% sold on it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Go to Councillor Shank, then I'll go to Councillor Hicks.
I'm in agreement for the spending of the $26,162 for this year, and to have the Bay of Quinte, but there's a lot of the short-term accommodations that are going to be being dealt with, what Prince Edward County has done. But to go ahead and sign a 4-year contract and tying another year of the new council, and we're just in year 2, we are going to be hiring a new CAO. There's going to be, I would hope that a new CAO would look at the whole organization, what is working, what isn't working, what could be streamlined, where the efficiencies are, where there's no, you know what I mean? What can we do, what we can't do? I don't want to tie the hands of any new CAO because I have questions also. We have economic development. What is that economic development doing? What is this doing? All right, that's going to tie in with ourselves. What's the new CAO? What is his look at it? You know what I mean? There might be a different view of what they can do and what they can't do. Are we going to go ahead with short-term accommodations? Are we going to use this firm? Are we going to use another firm? Are we going to use, are we going to, through the county, establish another firm that will deal with that we can keep more money into the county and keep more money into our municipality? These are all questions that need to be asked. So I hate to sign a 4-year contract with somebody not knowing all these parameters and all these things, and especially when a new CAO is coming in, and what he can do and what he can't do for this. you know, so that's, I'm in agreement for 1 year, but to sign a 4-year contract, no.
Thanks, Counselor Shank. Go ahead, Counselor Hicks.
Through you, your worship. Thank you. I don't think, if I look around the table, there's not a taste for 4 years. I think 1 year is short-sighted. I would propose that we sign a memorandum of understanding for 2 years only, which would allow the CAO to come in, whoever's hired. They'll have the balance of this year from their start date, as well as 2025, to get a feel for what is being done with the $26,000 a year. And as was pointed out to me numerous times, these are two separate things, and we're not talking about STA. We are simply talking about marketing and advertising, which are two different animals. And if you were in upstate New York, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, typed in Bay of Quinte, that's where you would go to see the Bay of Quinte Discovery Guide. We live here. So the marketing is not directed to the residents of Napanee because we already live here. It's being directed to those outside and to draw them in. And okay, I'm not going to say that. Just give me a minute. I have to just make sure I don't step on a landmine here. I don't think that we, as a municipality, the size that we are, for the cost of $26,000, having 5 professional staff members who will answer the phone anytime you call. They will give guidance, they will give advice, they are always there. I know from my experience when I call them, if any one of you fellow counselors have a question, you can call them, they'll answer, they'll discuss it with you. So I propose that we would do it for 2 years, the memorandum of understanding. I understand not one, because that also gives them some stability in knowing that over the next 2 years, they have $52,000 to work with.
Thank you, Counselor Hicks. Deputy Mayor Calver.
I understand where Councillor Hicks is coming from, but I did it this morning myself. I just typed in Greater Napanee because, again, if you were in Florida or any of the southern states, heck, even British Columbia, you wouldn't know Bay of Quinte marketing exists. We know it because we're here. If you were on your travel route and you said, okay, we're going through Greater Napanee, and you type in Greater Napanee, what do you find? That's where I'm getting from. I would agree on a 1 year till the new CAO gets here and takes a look around and sees what's going on. But we have, we have our own economic development team. Maybe the new CAO will want to look at that and see where we can split up or do things differently. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Go ahead, Counselor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pretty much in agreement with my colleagues across the aisle from me here. Although 2 years I'm not necessarily in favor of. I'd prefer to go with a 1 year term only. I hate to think, though, if we don't go with Bay of Quinte, what the alternative is for this year at least. We do have to promote our own town, and Bay of Quinte right now is we can't do anything in a hurry to replace them. So I'd prefer to spend the $26,000 this year, but for a 1 year term, and assess what we're doing overall with marketing, because I think we can do a better job. I think the town of Napanee, we should have brochures. We should maybe even have a visitor information booth. We need to do more, but right now with the Quinte Marketing Board, I think we need to keep with them. It's the only thing we have for this year. I don't think we can do anything different this year, but I'd prefer 1 year as opposed to 2. Assess the whole thing this year and see if we can do a better job of it next year. I myself think we can do much better east of us as opposed to west. I mean, not get rid of the West Marketing Board, but also we need to do something more east of us. We have a U.S. border not far from us at Gananoque, and I think we need to do something maybe even in Quebec, Montreal, to get people coming from the east to us as well. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
Thanks, Counselor Martin. Counselor Hicks.
Through you, your worship. So I'd make a recommendation, or I'll make a motion, that we go with 1 year with a memorandum of understanding for 1 year for 26, I don't have the exact number, 26,000 and change, to retain the services of the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board until such time as the CAO is hired and we can have a fulsome review. But I know that fellow councillors have spoken about the Community and Economic Development Department. And as I look at the department, that one person cannot do what those 5 professionals are doing out of Kingston. And they are, you mentioned the border, Bob, they do trade shows. I believe it's up to 6 times a year in the northeastern United States promoting this area. So they're going to the bus companies, they're going to the vacation shows, all this sort of thing, and promoting this area, including Greater Napanee. We have the ability to post things on the county Lennox-Addington County calendar of events. Met with Rob Plumley. It was a very productive meeting, but again, their agenda is the county. It's naturally LNA. It's not Greater Napanee, which is what the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board is. And when you look for the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board, you're not going to find it. If you look under Bay of Quinte, you will find the discovery guide that is produced by the Regional Marketing Board, which includes Napanee, Tyendinaga, Brighton, et cetera. So my motion is signed for 1 year.
Thanks, Counselor Hicks. Just before you make that motion, I just got a question for Annie. I don't know if she's got the ability to answer that, but do we have the ability to enter into a 1-year memorandum of understanding with the Bay of Quinte, or is it something that we would enter into with an out clause and review it after 1 year? So we enter into it for 2 or 4 years with the understanding that it will be reviewed after 1 year. That would be my question, but I will take Counselor Hicks's motion if you have the ability to answer that question.
Through your worship, I can check with Doug Stevenson, the executive director, to see if it's an opportunity that we can pursue. Normally in their MOUs, they do ask for 6 months advance notice if they were to withdraw. So I would assume that would be the case if we were to go with 1 year as well.
Thanks, Annie. That may or may not help Counselor Hicks with her motion. I'm willing to entertain that motion, or I guess one option we can do is authorize the 26,000 to go into a reserve fund for this calendar year until we get the details back from the Bay of Quinte as to whether or not they will enter into a 1-year memorandum of understanding, or whether a 2-year memorandum, or whether they'll enter into a 4-year, but allow us to exit, I guess, after review after the first year. Can we maybe get those details? I'm just throwing this out there. So we'll be looking, I know staff's looking for some form of a direction with respect to how we want to budget, so we can get the budget done here. I'll go with Counselor Hicks, then I'll go to Counselor Shank.
Through you, your worship. So in all fairness, this is a business and they need to make decisions as well. And they have submitted the request for the memorandum of understanding. If I'm not mistaken, it was in November of 2023. Madam Clerk, thank you. So we've now gone December, January, February, we're looking at March. So for those of us that have been waiting, Brian, Deputy Mayor, you have your own business. So when you're expected to wait for 4 months on an answer, I think it's fairly cut and dried, at least 1 year. And if we can do that, then, and I know Doug, if you contact him today, you'll have the answer today with no question. But I personally would really like to see this get resolved today. I don't know, I felt it's dragged on long enough.
I don't disagree with you, Counselor Hicks, but I think we got to get the other side of the story, right? So whether or not they'll enter into a memorandum of understanding for 1 year, but go ahead, Counselor Shank.
Do we pay Land O'Lakes? Are we affiliated with Land O'Lakes? Well, that answers that question. You were not, no. So, okay. So I'm not disputing that these guys, the Bay Quinte, are not doing, you're getting a bang for your buck. The only reason why I'm saying is that under economic development, I think it's $670 some odd thousand that we're paying and staff salaries and everything else. So when a new CAO comes, there's a lot of things, Annie, you and your department are doing that I personally feel that it's not really economic development. It's like you're doing so much more. I'm not disputing this. So all I'm saying is a new boss looks into it and says, hey, how can we make this more efficiently? And that's all I'm saying is just buy us a year until we have a new CAO. All right. I'm not going to tie his hands, and he looks into it. And then, you know, it won't take that long to look and say, hey, you know what? You know, Annie, in your department, you're doing things that, you know, maybe this other department should be doing. You know what I mean? So there might be some juggling that's going on. And then at the same time, you know what? Yes, Bay of Quinte is doing something very well. All right. Well, okay, yes, then we'll sign a 2-year. But that's the only reason why I'm saying do a 1-year contract. I'm not disputing that after you've given me the facts of what they've done. And when you look at it, sure, of course, they're going to always have the rosy picture on everything. But the point is for what they're doing, it'd be very hard pressed for us to do what we're doing for the $26,000 for this year. So I would go ahead, and if they're in business, yeah, no problem at all. They have to understand that we're going through the process of getting a new CAO and stuff like this, and it just keeps everybody on their toes too to do an efficient job. So that's why I would support Councillor Hicks's motion for a 1-year contract.
I think that's where we're going with it, Mike. We just have to ensure that that's something that they can or will do. So but we will entertain Councillor Hicks's motion, which will be.
So through your worship, the motion on the floor as moved by Councillor Hicks, correct me if I have this wrong, as the council received for information, Community and Corporate Services, Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board report. Further, the council support a 1-year extension of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board with the inclusion of funds in the budget for that purpose. And further, the council directed a more fulsome review of marketing be undertaken this year.
I think that's what Councillor Hicks said. Am I correct, Councillor Hicks? And that will accommodate the fact that we need to budget for that one way or the other, and we'll have that dealt with today. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
Through your worship, that's correct. Obviously, this motion would signal council's intent to support that. We would still need to reach out to the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board to make sure that they are also in agreement with that, but this would allow us to move forward if they're also in agreement with the proposed term.
Moved so by Councillor Hicks. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Cower. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next up, Community and Corporate Services Pre-Authorized Production of SPC Condenser. And I think Alan's going to speak to that.
Your worship and council members, in the absence of our facilities manager, I will speak to this. So we have a pre-budget approval request for the new condenser at the SPC arena. This is a capital purchase that is in the draft budget at this time. There's a requirement just based on lead times that we get this ordered as soon as possible. We need to complete the work during the shutdown summer periods of between June 1st and July 22nd. So it's quite a small window. So in order to have the equipment ready for that time, we're looking for council's approval at this time to proceed with the purchase of this capital item.
Thanks, Alan. Is there any Councillor Pennell? And then I'll go to Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, Alan, I do believe this is being paid through federal funding anyway, so it's not going to really affect the budget.
That's correct, yes.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, your worship. I move staff recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Hicks. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Norrie seconds. Is there any further comments or questions with respect to the condenser? Seeing none, I know it's a pretty important piece of the arena, so without it, we have no ice. In any event, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next up is Asset Management Financial Compliance 4.3. And Ellen, you're going to speak to that one as well? Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So before you have a staff report looking for some budget dollars or commitment for asset management financial compliance. This has come to light as a result of the 2022 audited statements where there was noted a deficiency in that area. All I'm looking for at this point in time is a budget allocation to support the financial requirements for TCA. We do have some work that's already been is ongoing with the county and city works. I intend to continue that work with that program. I'm meeting with with the county next week. I just need to be sure that we're able to get what finance needs out of that. At this point in time, we do not have that. So given kind of the pressures that we're seeing from our auditors and for the financial compliance, I'm looking for budget dollars to support either custom works within city works or looking at alternative options if it comes to that. I will be coming forward with a future staff recommendation once I have had more time to kind of review what has happened to date and what options our municipality has available to us to ensure that we're compliant on the financial side of TCA. So that's all I'm asking for at this time is just kind of an earmark to be able to have dollars available should we need them through the 2024 calendar year.
Thanks, Ellen. Is there any questions or comments for Ellen? Councillor Hicks.
Through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ellen. And I do understand the need for this. I have a question. The deficiency was brought to light by the audit. You have a plan moving forward, but when I look at, and sorry, I haven't got the correct glasses on, so I'm having to do a lot of this, but the Ontario Regulation 588/17 Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure and the Asset Retirement Obligations. Does any of our application for infrastructure grants hinge on us having this completed?
None that I'm currently aware of, but I do suspect that that will be the case, yes. For example, when we were looking at the Enabling Housing Water Fund, we have looked at that. Our asset management plan is currently compliant up into including the legislation as of July 2024. The next threshold that we have to meet is 2025. So I expect that it's possible that future grant applications would require those legislative requirements to be met. So yes, this is important for those reasons also.
Thank you. And
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
one further question. When we're talking assets, I know some people think, the chair is an asset, but we're actually talking about concrete assets, if you will. So the actual infrastructure of the town. So sewer lines, water lines, bridges. This is, and I'm sort of looking across the room at Jeff. I don't know if you can tell or not. But this is a question for the public as well. This isn't just a truck or a laptop. This is our infrastructure assets. Am I correct?
In some instances, it would include both. So if they meet the threshold for a tangible capital asset, it would be included. So some of our large heavy fleet certainly is included, but not all IT is some IT because collectively they form a capital asset. But generally speaking, yes, it is our larger infrastructure, roads, bridges, water, wastewater buildings.
So in one further, just to take it one step further, before someone hands us money, here's some money to fix things or improve things, it's mandatory that we show that we have a handle on what our assets are, what the value of it is, and the lifespan of said assets, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Ellen, is that what Councillor Hicks was just asking you? Is that really the issue with this system? Because I think that if we're sharing services with the county must have this under control somewhat. And I truly understand that you need the time as being new to our corporation, that you need the time to research that. And I understand that, but I'm just wondering, what's the county doing differently?
Through your worship, so you're exactly right, and that's the part that I'm not certain on yet that I still need to explore. I know that previous staff have worked on this to date, and we're still not at a point where we have a TCA register that is auditable by the auditors. So that's my area of concern. I would hope that we are able to get the financial outputs that we need from this software, but it isn't a live database that we are able to utilize yet. Whether or not it has that capabilities is where I still need to work through.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Pennell. Thanks, Alan. Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
Do other municipalities in Lennox and Edmonton County, they use City Works from the county too, do they not? And are they coming with the same problems or?
Through your worship, I believe that Stone Mills is active in City Works. Loyalist uses a different provider.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
The 50,000, you're just asking for the 50,000. If you're finding that there's difficulties, then you can use it to upgrade the City Works to make it fit to our, what your accounting practices are, right, for this. So it's not like, oh, here's 50 grand, you're going to do it. You're going to just find out, this is just in case, that you find out that it isn't capital and you can't have audible, forms. So therefore you can go ahead and get the correct program to add on to City Works. That's the way I understand it correctly.
Through your worship, that's correct. Yes.
Yep, thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information, financial services, asset management, financial compliance report, and further that council approve a 2024 budget commitment of $50,000 for asset management financial compliance. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. 2024 draft budget update. And again, Ellen, I think you got the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is just kind of a wrap up or summary of what we have completed to date in the 2024 budget deliberations. So in the staff report, we discussed what we have looked at the previous meetings, the additions that were made at the last budget meeting, the two outstanding items that we discussed today, and that would put us at a 6.6% tax increase with an overall proposed levy of $15 million and an overall tax levy increase of 7.88%. So that is where we're sitting today. It is in draft form. We anticipate that we will bring back a finalized budget at council's wishes at the March
12th.
12th meeting. Thank you for final approval.
Great. Thanks, Ellen. Is there any questions? I know it's a fairly big document, but any questions or comments for Ellen with respect to this, Councillor Pennell?
Thank you, Worship, through you. Ellen, on your staff report on page 1, where it says, starts off as a result of February 6th, the number one capital purchase of the articulating boom for a cost of $65,000 to be funded by the 2024 tax levy. I do believe that there's only 10,000 that will be done by the tax levy, because on the spreadsheet, it says that 59,000 of that's coming from federal funding. Is that correct?
The full cost of the boom is on the tax levy, the 65,000.
So the spreadsheet's wrong then.
Through your worship, the spreadsheet has 59,000 for the South Fred AC replacement, so it's just a line above.
I don't know if you noticed, but I've been wearing glasses lately, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Pennell. Councillor Nori.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to help me with, because I know the questions I'm going to get after the last 6 years of budgets and everything on Facebook. 2 quick questions. The 8553, a month or a year? And the percentage of our fixed costs, is it like 60, 70% that we have no control over? Just so I can answer the questions. I just need it generic so I can answer the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, the $85 per year, and that's on the town portion only. So not any change to education, which is remaining constant. And we don't yet know the county levy, but on the residential portion, that's per year.
In terms of the fixed costs, it's difficult to kind of give you the percentage breakdown. If you were to look back on that pie chart that we presented 2 meetings ago, I think now, or maybe just the past meeting, one of the biggest things is OPP, and that's 25% on its own. So that's a good starting point, and you can kind of work your way from there. The problem being with looking at fixed costs versus variable for us, it's dependent on service level. So I mean, the fixed costs surrounding, let's say the SPC, if we just let it sit there derelict, would completely change versus if it's operational. So it's very difficult to kind of give that true amount, unfortunately.
Thank you. I can give them the typical political answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor North. Yeah, and I see what you're saying, Nathan, because I mean, I guess roads would be the same thing. Is it a fixed cost? Well, yeah, because we've got to fix our roads, but in any event, is there any, Deputy Mayor Cobber?
Yeah, through you, your worship. So looking at this, we've got a total of $911,297 coming out of, no, that's not right. That's tax base. Sorry. So out of reserves this year, we're only taking 26,000 out of reserves.
Through your worship, that's correct. So that'll be pulled through the building department reserve to pay for the purchase of the plotter and scanner.
Okay, so the tandem truck, it's 430,000, and that's out of the tax, direct out of the tax base then. Nothing out of reserves.
Through your worship, that's correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything, Councillor Shank?
All right, I just, so I can understand this correctly, so I'm gonna be probably a little long-winded here. So we get, our cut for the municipality is what, 43 cents out of a dollar?
Through your worship, it's approximately, it's between 40 and 45, depending on the rate that you're looking at.
Just so you can explain this to me, all right? And we have a total tax levy of 15,219,000. Our payroll for the town is what, 8.6 million, 8.7? And a total tax levy, all right, of 7.88%. Now, after the last meeting, it was 7.12, but the two additions was Bay of Quinte and the assets management to bring it up to 7.88. The only reason why I was figuring the 7.12, because we were 6.23, and then I was just adding up as we went after the last budget meeting. So that's how we came to the 7.88.
Through your worship, there was also a change in a revenue line item from court security transfer that reduced the overall requirement, and then we added the TCA requirement as well.
So explain this to me again about court security. Explain what the cost, why we're looking after court security when the county gets all, like we pay this has always been a stickling point for me, but this is towards the county representatives that we pay for the policing, which is 25% of our budget from what you just said. All right. And then we go ahead and we have no other source of revenue except taxation, because when an OPP writes a fine, the fines all go to the county, but we have nothing to offset the payment of it because we have no other source of revenue in that part of business, you know what I mean, to pay the bill. Now we're paying court security also?
Through your worship, no, that's incorrect. The court security is actually a revenue back to us. That's a reconciliation that's done at year end. There was a number that we didn't yet have. So that's an additional revenue that's used to offset the protective services expense.
Thank you very much. That's the reason why I asked these questions. Now, explain to me, if you're at 7.88%, but how we go down to 6.68% on an average residential tax increase.
Through your worship, the 7.88% is the year over year increase in the actual levy itself. So $14 million last year, 14 and change this year. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's just on the levy itself. The 6.68% is the change in tax rate. And the reason that that difference occurs is because of the shift in the tax burden among tax classes.
Okay, so with that, so that handles the shift. So therefore, everybody's gonna listen to the 7.88 or the 6.68. Which number is the one that people are going to see? The 6.68 because the shift has already been completed?
Typically, when you do reporting or the media is asking, you're reporting on the tax rate increase, and that's the 6.68%. Sometimes there are variances in that reporting, and municipalities have had this discussion numerous times on what collectively do municipalities do. The consensus generally, from what I've captured, is that it is the tax rate increase rather than the levy increase.
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
All right, here's another question. I know you're gonna go, but I want to be able to understand it. So when I get asked, so that I can understand this. So therefore, 6.68% raises 85.53 on an average tax bill, right, per year. So therefore, this year, because you have the bag tax on top of this, might as well call it a tax of $200, but it's now another $100 this year. Last year was $100. So therefore, can I assume then that the 85.53, even though it's not $100, but if you add another 6.68%, so we're almost at 13% tax increase this year, because we have to raise the other 85.53, which is a bag tax. We got a 6.68% just to cover operation and capital and reserves. So therefore, the bag tax for 85.53, it's not even $100, is just another 6.68%. Do I understand that correctly?
So through your worship, to some degree, yes, but that wouldn't be the same effect essentially because, as Ellen pointed out, it's weighted across the municipality for your tax increase. So with the $100 surcharge, it wouldn't hold the same weighting. So property to property potentially, but the effect on each individual property is actually different each way. So without it being a mill rate, it's a little more difficult to determine the overall actual impact of it. I don't know if that helps explain it. So to some degree, yes, to some degree, no.
Well, I'm not a chartered accountant, but when I get my tax bill and I see a 6.68%, hopefully the tax shift isn't too bad, but you're still based on 2016 assessment, is it not? Is this 2016 or?
Through your worship, yes, the base year that MPAC is using for assessments is still 2016. It was phased in from 16 to 2010, or sorry. Thank you.
Oh, we're at year 4 of that 2020, we're correct? We'd be on the 2020 assessment right now.
Correct, but even that is still based off 2016 values. They just phased it in over a number of years.
So all I'm saying is when I get my tax bill, I see 6.68%, then I have the bag tax on top of that, so it's an extra $100. So it's a flat fee. Yes, it's not weighted, but that's what I can understand. So it is what it is. Somebody's got to pay the bill, and it's always the taxpayer that has to pay the bill. The reason this is more a statement than asking a question is that with the new CAO, we're going to have to find efficiencies of what we can do and what we can't do for the municipality, because when you figure out what the rates are and what municipalities are taxing the average taxpayer, it's going to come to the point of, you know what I mean? Like, we can't continue down that same road. So we have to, that's the reason why in any business to look at what we can do, what we can't do, you know what I mean? What are the services that we're doing and what can we afford? Because it comes to the point where, yes, we have to put money in reserves, back into reserves, but it has to be at least palatable to what a person has to pay. You just simply can't always go back on the taxpayers. I know there's a lot of other problems in the whole country, but we have to start and look after our own first. But that's one thing, hopefully with the new CAO and looking at what we can do and what we can't do, that'd be the best thing. So there we go. There's my rant.
Thanks, Mike. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Ellen, so our average residential tax bill increase is 85.53, according to this. So then the cost of bag tag levy is more than the average tax increase, if you add that on it. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
So it's $100 levy, but the average tax bill is 85.53 for everything else. Okay, I just wanted to get that straight. Everybody knows my feelings on the bag tag thing, but this whole thing doesn't make any sense to me at all when we're doing this way with the tax levy on bag tags. But anyway, it is what it is. Figures don't lie. Thanks, Mayor.
The 85.53 average residential tax bill is on a residence of what value?
216,000, Your Worship.
So a residence of 400 and some thousand, that would be double. Okay. I see Councillor Pennell. Did you have any questions?
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you, I do believe the tax levy for the bag tags was $200, not 100. But I also just want to say about the assessed values and stuff. I mean, yes, the $218,000 or whatever it is on the medium of our assessed value seems low, but so is everybody else's house. So because the impact is so far behind. So as mentioned before, it's a sliding scale. The higher that the assessment of your house is, the lower that we can adjust the mill rates and the rate increases to cover costs of what the corporation needs. Yeah, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Pennell. Is there anything else before we look for a motion on the floor? Any other questions of Alan or any other numbers, anything need to be clarified? Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship. Could I give a rant in this as well?
You're more than welcome to, as long as it doesn't drag on too long.
Thank you, and I'll ask you to cut me off when you're ready, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
It wouldn't be myself if I didn't continue on with this. I'm sitting here before we say to bring this back as a final form, to once again ask council to reconsider what you want to do with the aquatics program. It is quite evident to me that you do not want to give any monies towards the project this year. Much like the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board, we need to make a decision this term of council of what we're going to be doing. With reviewing of the numbers, we say that, or it's been said, that the town cannot afford an aquatic center. By looking at the SPC, the debenture is going to be paid in full this year. We were paying $550,000. This year's payment is $144,000 and some change. The total expenses for the SPC is $1.6 million. After revenue, it's $702,000. So $702,000, almost $703,000 the taxpayer is paying for. That tells me we can't afford the SPC.
Okay, Councillor Pennell.
I was just wrapping up.
There's time to address those matters, I'm sure, about 3 years from now. But if you can wrap up, I would appreciate it.
Well, it's as luck as I was going to say. Thank you very much for everybody listening to me and my rants, and I will end it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Councillor Shank.
The only reason why I'm saying this is not to be a blowhard or whatever, is that people have to understand, if anybody's gone through the county and going down 49 highway, you want to lose your vehicle and your struts and everything else. So we have to put money back in our roads. And the capital improvements of approximately $3 million, $1.3 million for road work. All right. And for the amount of kilometers that we have to have a heavy fleet, and we cannot, when a vehicle comes to a point where it's costing you more money to repair it, we have to have, because everybody, if they can't get out to work, everybody complains to the snow plowman. Well, the snow plowman, it needs a vehicle. So the amount of money that we're putting in fleet replacement into our parks, which is an existing, you know what I mean? It's a service that we're giving the residents into our parks, all right? And a bunker replacement of $50,000. So out of the $3 million, $1.3 million in our road work. And if you ever look at the amount of roads that we have and how many gravel, just straight gravel roads that we have, and the amount of gravel that we have to put on those roads, if we did it the way it should be done, that would be a lot higher. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's not that we're just wasting taxpayers' money. It's that the money spent wisely is just that there's only so much we can do. All right. But number one is to look after our infrastructure. We have a building at 99 Advance that we have to finance the $5 million. You know what I mean? We have a lot of unfinanced capital. So therefore, the sewage plant that has to go ahead, and for a municipality grow, we have to increase our capacity with the sewage plant, which they're doing. So there's going to be unfinanced capital. There's going to be involved in there, our water, and we have to have our roads. They're the three things for residents to have before we even have a house built on those things. So, and with an industrial park and some of the good things that we're doing also, but it's just, I feel the pain, but I can justify why we're spending the money and what we're spending it on. So it's not, there we go.
Thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there anything else? Deputy Mayor Calver.
Through you, your worship. Nobody wants to see taxes go up. We'd all like to see them go down. Unfortunately, the world we're in today, everybody wants, and those wants cost money. So when it comes to some of our capital assets that we're purchasing here, like the trackless and stuff, a lot of people don't even realize we may, that we're borrowing equipment from other municipalities to help get us through. So, I mean, we got to do something. And unfortunately, we didn't have a tax increase last year to the way it should have been, and this is kind of a catch-up. It is what it is, but I would really like to thank staff for all the work they've done on this. It's absolutely an amazing job, especially Ellen coming into it in the middle of everything, and everything here makes sense. And I just want to thank staff for the great work they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else before we entertain a motion with respect to a recommendation? We do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Financial Services 2024 Draft Budget Update Report, and further that council direct the treasurer to bring forward the 2024 budget as presented at the February 20th special session, including any amendments as authorized by council to the March 12th, 2024 council meeting for final adoption following the required public notice. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hicks. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship. Could we have a recorded vote on this, please?
Absolutely. Madam Clerk, I believe if there's no further, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Shank, before we do the record vote.
Sorry, one further. The town hall reconstruction, we have $81,871 left in that account. That's going to be done for the bricking of this town hall this year?
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Adalbert.
Your worship, that's scheduled to start in May, and it's a 3-month project on the exterior of the building.
I know we weren't successful in any grant applications, but are we still applying for that? Or if we start it and there's a grant application come through, can we say that, yes, we've already put the $81,000 towards it to match funding, you know what I mean? Or are they gonna say, oh, well, you have to have new funds to match any grants that if we're successful?
Through your worship, normally with grant applications, it doesn't fund work that's already started. However, we can say whatever we do on the exterior of the building, that's not the end of the project for Market Square. There's going to be a lot more expenses as far as landscaping and other work. So grant applications can be made for those. And the fact that the towns will have already spent money on the exterior of the building will actually help with those other grants going forward.
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
And also the North Red Sports Court of $35,000. May I ask what that was? Are we getting the nets up and lines done this year?
Through your worship, yes, our previous contractor kind of dropped the ball on it for us, and it should have been done last spring. And the reason for this to go back out is to complete the project with lines and what other equipment they need to start playing on the courts.
May I ask that 35,000 isn't just for that, is it?
It is, yeah. It's mostly the lines. It's specialized painting and it's, I think it's also for the surface of the asphalt, if I'm not mistaken.
Through your worship, that the asphalt, I believe, was completed in-house. It's for the acrylic surface painting and all of the treatment on the actual layer of that. So the asphalt was done in-house. We've just recently retendered that last week, so it should be, hopefully, we get a new contractor in here shortly.
Thank you, gentlemen. Is there anything further? I believe we do have a motion that's on the floor, and Madam Clerk, we do have a request for recorded votes, so I will turn it over to you.
Ward 1, Counselor Shank. Can you use your mic?
Oh, yes.
Ward 2, Counselor Hicks.
Yes.
Ward 3, Counselor Pinnell.
No.
Ward 4, Counselor Norrie.
Yes.
Ward 5, Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Calver.
Yes.
Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I see there's nothing else on the agenda other than we look for a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the Corporation Town of Greater Napanee at the special session of council held February 2024. Look for a motion moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, read a first, second, and finally pass this 20th day of February 2024. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Look for a motion for adjournment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks. It's been a journey, no doubt, but thanks for bearing with us, and we'll see you next week at a regular session of council.